From the world headquarters of Fox News, it's The Kelly File with Megyn Kelly.
Well, a little over a month ago, North Carolina enacted the so-called bathroom law, which critics were quick to call discrimination against transgendered people. Demonstrators descended on the state capitol. Companies like PayPal called off planned expansions. Some celebrities canceled appearances, and then politicians weighed in. In moments, North Carolina Governor Pat McCrory is here to respond to some of these folks. But first, Trace Gallagher is live in our West Coast newsroom to explain what caused this uproar. Trace?
Megyn, when the city of Charlotte passed an ordinance allowing transgender people to use the restrooms and changing rooms of whichever gender they identify with, the state of North Carolina rushed to stop it. The legislature, controlled by Republicans, was called into special session, and in one day, HB 2, or the bathroom bill, passed both houses and was signed by the governor. Supporters of the law say it prevents men who may be sexual offenders from pretending to be a woman and entering a woman's restroom or changing room. Opponents call HB 2 discriminatory, saying there are no known instances of predators dressing up as women and committing sex crimes. So far, the state has taken a financial hit from the loss of conventions and concerts like Bruce Springsteen and Pearl Jam. Other stars like Jimmy Buffett, who opposes HB 2, decided to perform anyway. American Airlines and Bank of America want the law repealed, and PayPal even canceled a North Carolina expansion project, although PayPal makes no mention of doing business in dozens of countries where homosexuality is illegal, in some cases punishable by death. In the presidential race, Ted Cruz supports the law. Donald Trump first opposed it, then backtracked. Here's both.
I think that local communities and states should make the decision, and I feel very strongly about that. The federal government should not be involved.
If Donald Trump dresses up as Hillary Clinton, he still can't use the girls' restroom.
And because of the controversy, some top North Carolina GOP state lawmakers are now proposing to let voters decide if the law lives or dies. Megyn.
Trace, thank you. Joining me now, North Carolina Governor Pat McCrory. Governor, thank you so much for being here. So let's start with this.
Thanks.
What was the fear that led to the enactment of this law?
Well, let me just correct the introduction story. The Charlotte ordinance was a mandate on all private businesses that have public facilities to require them to allow gender identification as the tool on which restroom an individual should use. So basically what we did in the state of North Carolina was overturn a local mandate on private businesses. I do not want government to be able to tell private businesses what their bathroom policy should be. I have no desire to be the bathroom police for private business. So one of the great misinterpretations from the New York Times and the Huffington Post and others is that we passed a bathroom law on private businesses. Just the opposite.
But with respect to government businesses, you have passed a law that requires people to use the gender that aligns with their biological gender at birth.
That's correct. With regards to rest stops on the highway, with regards to universities, with regard to our high schools and junior highs and elementary schools, we do require that.
What was the concern specifically? What was the evidence for you to believe this was a problem?
It wasn't. It was a respect for privacy. It was an expectation of privacy that individuals have, especially our youth have, when they go into a locker room, a shower, or a restroom. They expect only people of their gender to be there in that shower, locker room, or restroom. And it's a tradition that we've had for many years.
Let me ask you about that. Let's take locker room and dressing room out of it for now. Let's talk about bathroom for a second.
Well, that's a part of it, though.
I know, but a law can be drafted narrowly or broadly, and this one encompasses all three. And so I want to ask you about bathrooms, because I've been in women's bathrooms my whole life, and we don't have the urinal situation. We got like the stalls, and we get to go in, we go to do our business, and like we don't see each other. So why are you concerned about, young girls exposing themselves or seeing somebody else exposed in a woman's bathroom?
Well, first of all, I can't believe we're talking about this. This is not an issue that I started. This is an issue that the left started, not the right. And it's not just women's bathroom, it's boys' bathrooms. And in fact, the Obama administration now is putting requirements on federal money given to states that they also have to have this gender identification requirement for our schools. And this case is being tested in Virginia and Illinois.
If you could just,
and I just think what we ought to do is, for those people who have these unique gender identification issues, which I empathize with, we ought to allow the schools to make special arrangements for those people. But to all of a sudden change the basic common sense rules that we've had in our restrooms, at our rest stops, at our schools, especially at our universities, this is the way we've been doing it for years.
The schools are a dicier issue too, because it's children, and maybe the parents haven't had that talk. I get, but like the public restrooms that you know are provided in public places are maintained by the state. The question that many have is, what is your fear that, because you know there is a misconception that transgendered are somehow molesters or more, and they're not. That's not true. Yeah. You know,
I don't use that term.
Typically male molesters are heterosexual, and if they want to sneak into a bathroom, they'll do it. But 90% of the cases, molestation happens with someone you know. So what is the fear about the transgender situation in the bathrooms?
Mine is not a fear. I'm not doing it, and I don't like the rhetoric that's often used on the right saying what the fear is. It's the basic expectation of privacy that I hear from mom and dads and families, that when their daughter or son goes into a facility, a restroom, they expect people of that gender, of that biological sex or gender, to be the only other ones in that. That's the expectations that we've had for many, many years, as both you and I have grown up on. I gotta go, but I want to ask you a quick question. Can you believe PayPal is pulling out of North Carolina? They're scaling back their expansion, even though they do business in Saudi Arabia, where you can get killed if you're gay? I mean, the selective hypocrisy is outrageous by PayPal. Yeah. When they're doing business and headquartered in Singapore, where you get arrested for chewing gum in public, I believe. They do business in Yemen, but they don't want to expand business in North Carolina. Yemen's fine. Well, I think this is where the corporate elite have to be very careful about getting involved in politics. Is that it's inconsistent outrage, it's selective outrage, and they might need to examine their own practices in other states which have the exact same rules that North Carolina does. Over 21 other states have the exact same rules that North Carolina does. And we'll see if Bruce Springsteen cancels his concert in every single one of those states, or Demi Lovato, and so on. Governor, all he did was hurt the hardworking men and people of North Carolina, and that's not the right thing to do. You're a stand-up guy for coming on and talking about it. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.